Greeting to all YouTube viewers. I'm Vansbrook McKenzie. I was watching YouTube and I came to the knowledge that Mr. Elon Musk is planning to build a city in the land area that became known as Botswana of Southwest Africa by way of the Gentile European people conquest. First, I must say that Mr. Musk's intention is very good in wanting to build a city in the land of Ham that became known as Africa by means of the Roman conquest from the people of Carthage that did become known as North Africa. But in my opinion, it should be an Hamite person who has money to build a city in the land of Ham for their own people benefit, so as to be able to find employment among their own people, to better their own people condition of life. And it's not for a Gentile European person to do so, because the land of Ham do not belong to the people of Europe, but only to the people of Ham only. Just like how the land of Europe belonged to the Gentile people of Japheth only. But unfortunately, many Hamite people who has money do not have the love and care for their own people like many of the people of Europe who have money and who have the love and care for their own people of Europe. But many Hamite people who has money would rather stock up their money in some European banks, and when they die, all of their money goes right over to benefit the people of Europe who own these banks. In my opinion, the land of Ham belongs to the people of Ham only, and not to the people of Europe to have control over, like what is taking place in many parts of the land of Ham of today, because of the European colonial conquest of the people of Ham and his lands. But it's very sad that when it comes down to many Hamite people and their political leaders who become prime ministers and president over their own people, they do not have the love and care for their own people like many of the people of Europe, the Chinese, and many of the people of India who do so. But instead, many of them would rather take payoff and bribes so as to be used as puppets to keep their own people down, so that they can drive around in a big Mercedes Benz and have a big fat bank account in some European banks, while the majority of their own people are starving and begging for bread. In my opinion, it would be very good if those Hamite people who has money was to build cities and communities in the land of Ham for their own people benefit, rather than a European person who has money to do so. My reason for making this kind of statement, it is a known fact that wheresoever the people of Europe go out and conquer to set up their system of rulership over the people of their conquest, most of the time these places of their conquest have always become a place of violence, corruption, murders, sexual immorality, pornography, prostitution, homosexualism, lesbianism, with all sorts of exploitation for them to get rich. While in the meanwhile, they would keep many of these native people down as their foot cloth to wipe their feet on. Just to give one example of the sexual predatory natures of many of the Gentile people of Europe, I was watching the internet and they were showing how many poor women from the poor part of Europe would be trapped into sex slave as prostitutes by offering them employment in many parts of Europe, the United States, and Canada, where many people of Europe are financially better off. And then these women will be turned into sex slaves. This would be no different if Mr. Musk was to build this city of his in what became known as Botswana, because many young poor Amite women from different parts of the land of Am would want to go to the city to seek job opportunities, but only to be turned into sex slaves for the men of Europe who has money. It was the same way when many of these European men left from Europe to go to Southwest Africa to set up their settlement. They have corrupted the minds of many poor women of South Africa to become prostitutes of their sexual pleasure. Also, it is also true that when these European people left from Europe to go to South Africa, they would keep many of the native people down as their footcloth to wipe their feet on, while they would have control over the land to be their own benefit and gain the wealth from the land. Let us take for what became known as Namibia of Southwest Africa. These European people left from Europe and went to Namibia to take over what became known as Namibia, who see themselves as natives and take over most of the land area to be their possession, while the true native cannot even walk and breathe in their own forefathers' land that was given to them by Yahweh. Also, some time ago I was watching the television and they were explaining that many European men who had money would leave from the United States, Australia, and Europe, and they would go to the Philippine Islands and many parts of Southeast Asia where they would have child prostitute from the age of 6 to 10 to 15-year-old to give them sexual pleasure, because many of these children came from out of poor homes. So many of these child prostitutes see these European men as an answer to get them from out of poverty. I also was watching the internet and I learned that what became known as Namibia of Southwest Africa, they have found a vast amount of oil and diamond, and the people who have control over the oil and the diamond is many European people who left from Europe to go and settle in Namibia and to have things under their control. And many of the native people do not even have the right to walk and breathe in their own Yahweh land that was given to them and their forefathers when they came about. Furthermore, because of the European conquest and influence over the land of Am and its people, it has caused many of our Amite women to move away from their ancestors' way of dressing, and they have copied the European women's ways of dressing by putting on hot pants, mini skirt, tight up clothes, so as to draw attention to them sexy look, which is nothing but immorality and corruption that will lead many Amite people into destruction, just like how Yahweh had destroyed many of the Canaanite cities of Sodom and Gomorrah of the land of Canaan for their sexual immorality and corruption. So in my opinion, when Mr. Musk built this city of his in Botswana, it will be the same way, creating a lot of immorality to interest his own Gentile European people to their own benefit, to come in and take over with corruption, violence, just like what is taking place in what became known as the United States, Australia, or wheresoever the Gentile people of Europe go and take over and take over these lands. And it became a land of violence, corruption, with all kind of sexual immorality. So, this city of Mr. Musk will be the same way to benefit its people of Europe, to have everything under their control, just like what is taking place in South Africa and everywhere else in the land of Ham that the people of Europe came in and take over to benefit themselves. But if this president of Botswana, or where the city is supposed to be built, was a man of knowledge of the suffering of the brutality of his people of South Africa and elsewhere in the land of Ham, where the people of Europe left from Europe to go and conquer and set up things under their control, he would have never give his approval to have this city be built by Mr. Musk, for he and his European people to come in and take over to have control. But as I've explained many times, that many of the political leaders of the land of Ham, who see themselves as leaders of their own people, they are suffering from a bad state of colonial and slavery mentality of stupidity by selling out their own people interests and future for the right price to be paid. But no Hamite person who has money would not get the opportunity to go to Europe to say they want to buy land to build a city so as to benefit their and own people. It would never happen, because many of the people of Europe and their politicians are not as stupid and foolish as many Hamite leaders of the land of Ham, who see themselves as leaders of their own people. Many Hamite people do not have the historical knowledge of the many wickedness of the Gentile people they have done to many nation of people who came under their colonial control of things. If we, the Hamite people, did commit the amount of atrocity as the people of Europe, as they did to many of us and other people, they would never give us the time of the day as how we show love and compassion towards these people, in spite of all the wickedness that they have done to us and other people. Just to give one a good example of what I'm speaking about, in what became known as the United States, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and many other places, many of the natives of these places cannot even walk and breathe in their own lands as did their forefathers did before them, before the coming of the people of Europe, who came and take away their land to gain wealth. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to make this video. I'm trying to express the truth because it's the truth. I know some people may not like to hear it, but hey, what can I say? The truth is truth, and the truth must be told. Thank you. Take care.